refer back to it, or if your parents weren't able to make it, or a spouse or whatever we want to get it to, we can do that. This meeting, like I said, the goal is to try to make sure that we get everybody all the information they need, and we'll break it down even by, what grade you're in, what you need to be doing each year of your high school career. As we're going, at the end, there will be an opportunity for y'all to ask questions. So you can either, type your questions in the chat over to the side, or you can just wait till the end and you can ask questions at the end. But we'll touch on all questions at the end. Before we get started, I want to introduce Coach Arthur. Coach Arthur is the one running the PowerPoint right now. Coach Arthur is our new D-line special teams coordinator. He is coming to us from North Paulding. Coach Arthur at North Paulding was in charge of the recruiting, was a recruiting coordinator there, as well as when he was at Florida. And I'll let him kind of talk about himself. Coach Arthur, if you go ahead and just introduce yourself to everybody about your recruiting background.
Yes, guys, first off, I just want to tell you I'm so excited to be a part of this program, and be a part of this staff in this school. This past year I ran the recruiting at North Paulding, and then prior to that I ran the recruiting at Oakleaf High School right outside of Jacksonville in Florida for a good part of the time, where the recruiting game was kind of evolving to what it is now. And it's a constantly evolving game. And that's the whole point of this meeting, is to, inform you as a parent and at the same time the players, because, there's stuff that you're going to hear and see in the recruiting game that you don't know if it's, fake news or real news. So, that's the big purpose of this meeting, I think, is just to inform you guys and keep an open line of communication.
Yeah, definitely. So Coach Arthur's going to be helping us handle recruiting along with Coach Stanley. Coach Stanley is at the beach and unable to be here right now, but he'll be a part of this too. Guys, I think that recruiting is, like Coach Arthur said, a very funny game, and very different depending on what position you play and depending on what year. Every year is a little different. But as the head coach, I do think that it's a big deal. I think that if you want the opportunity to go play college football, no matter your size, no matter what grade, no matter what your stats say, there will be an opportunity. There's an opportunity for everybody. You just got to be willing to do what's required. And the big thing we're going to harp on, and you're going to hear me say it 1,000 times, is the grades. Those grades really matter. So we'll go ahead and we'll get started. We'll go to the first slide.
Oh wait, hold on. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, you got it. All right. So again, we're going to try to put it all out there for you, so you know exactly what people are talking about. All right. Full scholarship. When people talk about a full scholarship includes tuition to the school, room, which is like your dorm, your living situation, board, which is your food, your dining, all those types of things, books, and then a cost of attendance based on the school. Now, the cost of attendance is a relatively new term that they've just started doing, and usually that's in the form of a reimbursement check. But when you hear when you're offered a full scholarship, all of those are included. That means that you are going to school and you do not have to pay any money out of pocket. At the FBS level, so FBS is Division 1A. FBS is like the University of Georgia, Auburn. Those are all the major FBS programs, and they go all the way down to Miami of Ohio and some of those schools. The FBS level has 85 full scholarships that they are allowed to offer per team each year. So per team. So they have 85 scholarships that they can offer. The FCS level, which is what a Kennesaw State would be, Kennesaw State and that FCS level, they have 63 full scholarships. Now, this is where it kind of gets interesting. At the FCS level all the way down, those scholarships can be split up. And what that means is you can receive partial money from football. You can receive a partial scholarship. They could give you half of your scholarship in football, and you can get half based off of, your academics or something else, or you might have to pay for half of it. But they can split those up all the way to the dollar. Division II has 36 full scholarships, and Division II would be like West Georgia, Valdosta State, Shorter. Those are all Division II programs. They have 36 full scholarships that they can offer. And again, those can be split and combined with academics or or any other type of, aid that you might get, or you might have to pay out of pocket. Okay, NAIA. All right, NAIA is something that's a little different. Everything else that we talked about was NCAA. So that's the ones that you really know about. NAIA is a separate organization, and they are schools like Belhaven is NAIA in Mississippi. Coach Arthur, who's some Cumberland's in Tennessee is NAIA. Are there any local Georgia ones anymore? Point University is NAIA school. Any other big ones I'm missing, Coach Arthur?
Yeah, you got Reinhardt.
Reinhardt.
And there's a bunch of NAIAs popping up in Florida, and there's some in Alabama like Faulkner.
Yes.
So yeah, there's NAI. There's a lot of NAIAs in the Southeast.
And the NAIA, what that is what I would equate the level of play to would be similar to a Division II, maybe a little bit lower, just depending on where you go. But they have 24 full scholarships that again can be split up. And then the last one is the second to last one is NCAA Division III. Okay, now you will see a lot of these schools popping up on Twitter and people's social media, and there's a common misconception here. NCAA Division III schools cannot and will not offer any athletic scholarships. So Berry College is Division III. Birmingham Southern is Division III. There's quite a few of those in this area as well. LaGrange is a Division III college. Now, when I say that they do not offer athletic scholarships, you will see people say, quote, that they're getting offered by LaGrange or an offer from Berry. What that means is they are offering you a roster spot. And we'll get into more as this goes, but there are no athletic scholarships at the Division III level, but they are able to, give you grants, academic money, things like that they can kind of work a package. They put together a package for you. Okay, and then the last is the JUCO, junior colleges. Okay, JUCOs are dependent on state. Kansas has the most, California has more, and then Mississippi has the fewest. I believe, is Georgia Military still a JUCO in Georgia? Coach Arthur?
Yes, Georgia Military is still JUCO.
Okay. So now JUCO, that's a different route. They, their scholarships and all that stuff is dependent on the school and the state, whether they are even able to give scholarships. But what JUCO does is they're able to provide you an opportunity if your grades aren't where they need to be, or you might need another year of development or different situations. But that's a bridge that is crossed usually your senior year once you know that might be the route that you're going to go. All right. Words of advice and things to remember as you're beginning this process of recruiting, okay? And everything that we are saying here is not a personal shot at anybody. These are not blanket statements. Everybody, there are the outliers, there are the people who defied the odds, all those types of things. We are just trying to provide you the information that you need. As an athlete and as a parent, please do not get caught up in going D1. Okay, what I just showed you with those numbers, there's plenty of opportunities out there if you want to go play football, and even if you want to go play football for free or on a scholarship, there are still a lot of opportunities and plenty of good football and education at those lower level schools. Remember, the lower the level you go, so D2, D3, NAIA, the chances are higher of you having to take out tens of thousands in student loans. Okay, a lot of these smaller schools are private schools, and private schools are a lot more expensive. That's when you have to kind of evaluate your own financial situation, your own, wants and needs and what you're looking for in a university. Now, there's a lot of people who choose to do that and go that route. And if that's something that you want to do, that is an option, but you just have to weigh all those options. And then the last part, guys, you're in this meeting because you want the opportunity to go play football at the next level. So you need to be, once you're given that opportunity, that means that somebody at a university believes that you can help their program and you can be a benefit to their program. So you just need to be happy with those opportunities and each and every opportunity that you're given, for sure. All right. Now we're going to get into the things that matter before we even talked about anything athletically. Okay. And parents and players, as we're going, if you want to screenshot this, there's a lot of, information on here that I think is going to be very beneficial to you. These are the requirements of core courses for each level. Okay. This is my recommendation. Over here where it says Division I, Okay, that needs to be the expectation and the goal for you as far as when you're setting up and you're planning your high school course or core courses that you're selecting. Okay, that side, if you will hit all of those requirements, you will reach the requirements for core courses for everything else. So I don't really want to go into a whole lot of the other ones. I'm really just going to focus on this one. And at Kennesaw Mountain, being a magnet program, being a school that takes the academics serious and that is one of the top schools in the state academically, if you do what you're told and what your counselors, help you plan, you should hit all of these marks. But in order to be eligible at the Division I level, you must take 16 core courses in your high school career. That's 4 years of English, 3 years of math, algebra 1 or higher, 2 years of natural or physical science, 1 year of an additional English or math or natural science, 2 years of a social science, and then 4 years of additional courses from any of the areas above, foreign language or comparative language or philosophy. That needs to be the goal. That's not, to me, a big thing. We've never, in my time at Kennesaw Mountain, had an issue with a kid having enough credits, because at Kennesaw Mountain, if you are on track to graduate and you're doing what you're supposed to do, you'll have the courses that you need. Okay, the next thing, okay, no matter how good you are, no matter how good of an athlete you are, no matter how tall you are, how big you are, how fast you run, this could be the number that stops you, and that's your GPA, okay? You need to make sure that the 2.3 is the minimum GPA that you have to be eligible. I think everybody in here, if you're a serious competitor, and we talk about being 1-0 in everything that we do, the classroom's got to be just as important. That should not be something that's even on your mind. Your GPA you should be striving to have the highest GPA you can have each year.
And Coach, if I could add something to that too, that's your core GPA. That doesn't count your your elective classes, like your underwater basket weaving or your PE classes. Like, it's all those classes that we just talked about. It's 2.3 in that class, or you're mandatory taking a red shirt that year.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks, Coach. Core GPA is what matters. When you hear these coaches, when college coaches talk to you, they're going to ask you what's your GPA. You're going to tell them 3.9 or whatever, because you got all these 100s in weight training or PE or whatever. The thing that they're going to ask next is, what is your core GPA? So those are the classes that really matter, are those math, science, social studies, English. Those are the ones that are going to be the most important. All right, here's an example of the scale, the sliding scale for GPA and test score. Hold on. So, for example, if your core GPA is a 3.55, the SAT score that you will need on the new SAT is a 400. So if you take care of your business in the classroom, that means that you help yourself on that test score. If you're not a good test taker, then you need to make sure your GPA is really good. The ACT summit score that you would need to have if you have a 3.5 core GPA is a 37. Now, let me just show you the difference as that goes. So if your core GPA is only a 2.75, well, now you need to make an 810 on the SAT or a 59 on the ACT summative. So those are the issues. That just shows you how that scale goes, as far as the higher your GPA is, the lower your test score has to be. Now, and we'll talk about this as we go, but at those lower levels, a lot of times you get more money if you have a high GPA and a high test score. But we had a player 2 years ago who received a scholarship to go play football at NAIA level, and he had a really, really good test score. He had a really bad GPA, but his test score was so good. He was almost the anomaly here, in the fact that he was able to become eligible because his test score made up for that poor GPA. But that's what we talk about, guys, about the importance of that GPA. You need to make sure that you're focusing on A's and B's in the classroom. And if you take care of A's and B's in all your core classes, the test score shouldn't be an issue. But we'll talk more about test scores as we go. Here's just more of that. Yeah, thanks. All right, now this is where we're going to get a little bit get real. Coach Arthur, stop me. I think you're the next. You take over the next one.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. These are the average per positions, the average size at each level. Okay, I'm going to let you kind of look over it and, see and I'll just kind of touch on them for the average quarterback. Okay, to be a Division I quarterback, the average quarterback is 6'2", 207 pounds. Okay, if you play quarterback and, everybody in your family is 5'8" and weighs 140 pounds, then, you're going to have to do something extraordinary athletically or look at other options for you. But at the end of the day, guys, college football is a business. These guys, they have to feed their families based off of the evaluations and recommendations they make on players, and they have a standard that they have to play at. Now, not saying that if you're not 6'2", you can't play quarterback at the Division I level. I'm just saying that is their basis that they go off of. The average Division I or the average Division II receiver is 6 foot and weighs 181 pounds. Average Division I FCS tight end, 6'3", 228 pounds. Average running back at the Division II level is 5'9", 190. So, a lot of these, the weight doesn't, or the height and weight doesn't necessarily change. It then gets to the, the film breakdown and, what kind of tape are you putting out there and what are your weight room numbers like along with that GPA?
Exactly. And then especially, a couple years ago, this is just the averages. And I always tell kids, the smaller you are, the faster you have to be. And I'm going to use an example. We had a kid a couple years ago who was probably 5'6", maybe 5'5" on a good day. But he was a national champion in the Junior Olympics in the 100 meters. All right, so he was running like a 10.5 as a junior. So the smaller you are, don't necessarily fit that average, the faster you've got to be. And we're talking about legit speed. All right, move on. Same thing that Coach Carmine just talked about. These are just other positions that weren't listed. The average. Let's just look at the FBS defensive back, the first one in the upper left-hand corner. That's 5'11", 189 pounds. Now, more and more coaches I talk to, they're looking for more length with defensive backs. So that average actually probably could be a little bit higher. And then linebackers, okay, look it over, 6'1", 223. Now there's some that that the size doesn't really match up, but we're just talking about average. Prime example, I probably would have given my a couple of fingers to go play Division I football, but I'm 5'7" on a good day. I wasn't 6'4", 297. These are just average. This is the law of averages. There's going to be some that are bigger. There's some are smaller. But again, this is kind of giving you a realistic shot. What's going on here? All right. So the process of recruiting. Okay. So let's talk about what college coaches are doing. Okay. So what they do, and we'll talk about periods and stuff like that. But normally the evaluation period is what the NCAA calls it. It runs from April 15th to May 31st. So right now we're technically, quote unquote, inside the evaluation period. But they'll identify possible prospects based on recommendations from high school coaches or opponent coaches. That's big. I know Coach Carmine and every college coach we talk to says, all right, we talked about your kids. What about people that you play? I mean, who do you think can help us? And, we'll give them honest, hey, I think this kid at so-and-so school can help you. Not recruiting coaches, 7-on-7 coaches or trainers. All right. Now there is a select few quote unquote trainers that, have some connections, but that's not going to be the first place that some of these coaches look. Then the coaches will come visit the school to gather more information on the prospect. Get some contact information on them, parents' names, parents' jobs, their transcripts. Sometimes they ask to speak to the kid to do a quick size up and do some informal testing, aka handshake, eye contact, how they speak and carry themselves. If we're listening to a kid at 6'2" and the coach knows for a fact with no shoes on, he's 6'2" on the dot, and he shakes a kid's hand standing up, and the kid is not eye level with him, he knows that kid's not 6'2". That's how they do it. Last year I had a coach from an SEC school. I said, Coach, this kid's 6'2". So okay, and then he shook hands after he left. Like, yeah, Coach, he's 6'2" because he was nose to nose with me. So that's how they evaluate. They just do a quick handshake, see what kind of kid they are. They got a weak handshake. They don't look them in the eye. They're doing all kind of evaluation in that 15-second period of meeting those kids. So then the coaches will take back or send back all the information and discuss their current needs of their roster and their future roster. Examples, how many players they're looking to sign for that recruiting class. And we'll talk about that here in the coming slides. For example, they're looking to sign 4 offensive linemen. Okay. Well, we'll get more into that in a second. So the recruiting area coach, now each school is designed, or each coaching staff, whether it's Division I, II, FBS, D3, they're assigned an area to recruit. Now I know Cobb County is so big, some colleges just say, all right, you got Cobb, and then, coach number B or coach number 2, you got everything else around Cobb. But so there are coaches that are specifically designated to recruit, Cobb County or, Northwest Georgia. And that recruiting area coach, all right, he'll show the film probably to the position coach first. And then if the position coach likes it, he'll give it to the coordinator. If the coordinator thinks the student athlete fits into their system and a kid is worth investing over $100,000, and remember, that's how much those scholarships are. Over $100,000. He will bring it to the head coach, and then the head coach will make the call on who to offer. So it's kind of working up the chain of command, so to speak. So here's a scenario that I'm going to give you, okay? Paulding State will lose 2 outside linebackers this year due to graduation. So should have been another 0 there. In the 2020 class, they will need to sign 2 outside linebackers to replace those 2 outside linebackers. They're losing 2, so they got to replace 2. So they make a board when they are ranking their prospects from all over the country. To about, some coaches I talked to said they go, depending on the position, they'll go 1 through 15. Sometimes they'll go 1 through 20. Once they make this board, they'll rank them. And so Paulding State's looking for 2 outside linebackers. Well, they'll take numbers 1 through 6, and they're going to offer 1 through 6. That's how it works. Now, let's say they offer the top 5. So they've offered 1 through 5 out of the 20 that's quote unquote on their board. But they're only taking 2. The first 2 that commit is who they will sign and who they will honor that to. So, for example, number 1 on their board says, thanks for the offer, Paulding State, but I'm going to commit to Cobb Tech. All right. Number 2 doesn't know. All right. Number 3 commits to Paulding State. Boom, they got 1. Number 4 commits to Paulding State. Boom, they got 2. They're done at recruiting an outside linebacker. Meanwhile, 2 and 5 no longer have an offer from Paulding State. All right. And even though number 2 and 5 are undecided, or they didn't commit before 3 and 4, they cannot commit on their offer because Paulding State's only taken 2. And I tell kids and parents this all the time. It is a high-stakes, high-pressure game of dating. So what happened, maybe number 2, maybe that was his only offer, but he didn't commit. Now he has no offers. Okay, so it is a high-stakes, high-pressure game of dating. All right? So we talked about, let's say, for example, the same, scenario we just talked about. Number 1, he's committed to Cobb Tech. Okay, so he's off the board. Number 2 and 5 are undecided. All of a sudden, number 3, he originally committed to Paulding State. Now he flips to the University of Cherokee. So now Paulding State is now looking probably at 2 or 5. So now they're going to come back in the picture. So that now they're going to have to try to flip number 1 or get 2 and 5 back in the fold. So, even if a school is quote unquote full at a position, they will keep backup plans available. These guys get paid hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. So, they got plans A, B, and C because nothing's official until, the ink is dry. All right, Coach Carmine.
All right, so continue on what Coach Arthur said, and that can, from your perspective, that can be a little different as far as the athlete and the parent. It is extremely stressful, like Coach Arthur talked about, and it requires a lot of communication and at times trust with people you've just met. What the offer is. An offer is a grant and aid offer to exchange educational costs with exchange for your athletic talents. Okay? There's 3 different types or 3 different variables here. The first is unofficial. That's the most common you see on social media, usually by mouth or text. saves them by nothing in writing or official. Now, what that means is you'll see somebody say, blessed to receive on Twitter, blessed to receive an offer from COD Tech. Okay, that could mean anything. If that's an unofficial offer, that's where you as a player, you as a parent, and us as coaches communication will be so important. The thing I tell people all the time is ask these coaches, is this a committable offer? Okay, unofficial offers are not committable offers. That's just them saying, hey, we like you, we're going to offer you, you're on our board, is what it is. Official offer is on paper stating as an official offer. It usually comes in the form of certified mail, and it can't be sent or received until the August 1st of a prospect's senior year. So we are all in the age of social media. We all see it, and that's the best relation I can show you because that's what you are probably judging off of. I'm just as good as that guy down the street. He's getting all these offers. You see these guys getting offers, as 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds because, of whatever reason. Those are unofficial offers. That's just started that dating process between the school and those kids. You cannot have an official committable offer or, signing offer you can sign until August 1st of your senior year. A commit, when you hear people say, and some of you might not know, what does it mean to commit? That's a verbal agreement between the school and the prospect that they will sign there come signing day. So, you'll see a lot of guys, their sophomore, junior year, commit to, if they've been offered by the University of Georgia and they're a Georgia fan their whole life and that's what they know that's what they want to do, they'll commit. And when they commit, there's an understanding between the school and the kid and the player and the parents that's where they're going to go. Now, there are a lot of people who flip. There are a lot of people who back out of commitments, but, I think that's a big thing that we do a good job of and that, we'll try to help through is don't commit until that's where you want to go. It is a high-stakes game, and like the example Coach Arthur just gave, if you know where you want to go and you're that guy who wants to go to Paulding State, and you've visited, you've done all your research, you felt at home, and that's where you want to go, then go there. Commit and go there and be happy with your decision. Now, there are things that happen. We've had a guy a couple of years ago who, up until his senior year, had a lot of FCS offers, and after his senior year, the SEC schools started offering because he had a really good senior year. Well, when that happens, that's a unique situation that, that's a kid who might want to decommit and reevaluate his options because more people have come in. But just know that, once you decommit, that school's going to, once you say you're going to start looking, they're going to start looking. And that's just something that, you kind of have to weigh your options there. All right, here's a really good video. It's not too long, but I really want you to make sure that you pay attention here. What's being said. This is inside the meeting room, the coaches' meeting room at the University of Miami when they were talking about a prospect. And this is, Coach Arthur, I played it shorter, and I probably should have said this at the beginning. I played it shorter. After I got done playing, I was a grad assistant and a coach for 2 years, and I was involved heavily in the recruiting aspect from that level. And these are things and conversations that really go on there. So just pay attention to how this goes.
I thought he was an offer. I think he's physical. He reminds me of, you said it reminds me of Jaquan, but it reminds me of Deion Bush in high school. Very similar.
To me, he's not an offer. I don't think he's elite. I don't think he's got elite speed. He fills the alley. I think he's well coached. He does, the steps, footwork, and all that stuff's always the same. So that's what's being coached. When he's filling the alley, you would like to see him strike. There's no burst. He just kind of takes a little bit to get going. Once he gets going, he's kind of okay, and he gets down there. But he's not striking anybody or forcing anybody back.
I thought he was at a higher point going after it. And I also like his footwork when he did have to come over and play the number 2 guy. how he did a good job with his back pedal, stayed disciplined in back pedal, and his quick feet that he had in front of him to show that, you know, he had the ability to move his hips. If he had to come down to be a nickel guy in some cases like that.
He's an awesome. I thought you see him play that open middle quarters or whatever they're playing, but he fit the defense really well. I thought, you know, he tackled well. Even when he didn't run through people, I agree with Hurley on some of those, but the guy was on the ground. He tackled the guy, and the guy was on the ground. He didn't miss tackles from what, it's a highlight tape. I thought when the time he wanted to see him flip his hips, he stepped up, flipped his hip, transitioned well, got out and was getting coverage. And yeah, he didn't catch the ball, but he did break on it. There was times where he broke on the defender because he knew he wasn't going to get to the ball and collision with the defender. And then there's times where he just broke on the ball.
The one thing he's elite at is playing safety. You know what I mean? Like you want to get safeties, they got to play safety. Safety's the hardest position on defense to play. I think he's instinctive. I don't say there's any way you would coach a safety to make the plays that he made. They either see it or they don't. And it's hard to train. Safeties, have to be able to react to run pass and show up. They're playing him in a robber position. He's playing about 12 yards flat-footed. And so he's going to be recovering on a lot of those deep balls once he reads past. They're putting him in a position where he's not backpedaling. They're taking advantage of his skill set, which is to make tackles for them, similar to what Seattle does with their post safety. He sits there flat-footed and gets a run pass, never backpedals on a snap, and will run downhill. They're playing a lot of robber coverage.
That's interesting you said that, because that's I wrote it down. That's so true. As far as safety. Yeah, I mean, people say, that guy can get safety. What makes you say that?
Yeah, I hate that. I don't like hearing that. I don't know. It's the hardest position. It's the last line of defense. They have to be the most versatile. They have to cover, they have to support the run. Play deep ball, have to make the checks. They have to see it.
And you can tell he's a smart kid. I mean, any kid that's a junior that's technically sound, he's not a dumb kid, right?
They won 2 state championships because they're well coached.
Yeah,
a lot of that's what you want.
Right. So my question is, a guy like that when you're watching this film, and I know the only thing that he's saying he's elite at is that being a safety. Now picture him or project him in the ACC. I would like to see him playing against one of the better teams in the area.
What do you think he runs?
Oh, he's probably high 4.7, low 4.8.
I mean, are we evaluating elite athletes or good football players?
We're evaluating the types of players.
Or are we evaluating just speed?
No, we're evaluating guys that can play for the University of Miami.
The best safeties, okay, that we've ever had. Okay, what did they run? The best instinctive safeties that we've ever had.
He's the best.
Okay, he ran 4.68. If the guy runs 4.5 and he can't play safety, you understand? He can't see it, he can't get lined up, he can't make the calls, he's not instinctive, he can't read run pass, he backs the hell up because he's scared. Right? All those things, right? The guy can play safety. That's what I was being a little bit sarcastic with you. He's not elite at anything but playing safety. He's a hell of a safety. Okay, what do you want then?
Well, again, to me, we're going to another conversation. How about it? He's not a jumper, he's a safety, right? No, I mean, I know we're trying to develop explosiveness, but I'm just saying, like, the guy plays safety. I keep going. Okay, I've been doing this for too long that when everybody says, oh, yeah, they want to make safety a dumping ground, I'm not sure if he can play wideout, but he can play safety. Or I'm not sure if he can play corner, but he can play safety, and they want to make it a dumping ground. You've never seen the kid play safety. Safety's a different deal. Watch this kid play safety. The best safeties I've ever had are the ones who played safety in high school. And were good. Their tape was good in high school, and their tape was good in college. Why don't we make a profile tape and try to find some of the stuff that everybody questions, right? The speed and the range and everything else, and see how many missed tackles he had. Rewatch it and see if the things people thought were real weaknesses showed up, or if we were able to.
Right now we got 5 offers, 4 non-offers.
All right, so as we're going back to the PowerPoint, there's a few key pieces of information I hope that you kind of picked up on there. Number one, that was them discussing one player, They were just discussing on one guy whether or not they should offer him. And at the end of that, there was still no decision made. So what they kind of go, that's kind of an behind the curtains look at, what they go through to decide, whether or not they're going to offer a guy. And at the end of the day, they still said, let's make a cut up of what is his speed like, how does he run. They still had to do more research. So when we talk about the amount of money, every school, no matter what level, they all do that. They all make it that detailed. And I guarantee you there's part of that video that we didn't even see where they talked about, has a kid ever gotten in trouble? What's his character like? What are his grades like? Who does he hang around? Those are all things that are factored into that evaluation. You heard him talk about, the level of play. We are very blessed at Kennesaw Mountain with the opportunity to play at a very high level. Nobody in my time at Kennesaw Mountain has ever questioned the level of play and the level of competition. If you can play and, they evaluate you, that's never a factor. But everything does matter, and that's just kind of a behind-the-scenes look there. The next thing we're going to go to is still me, right, Coach Arthur?
Yes, it's still you. Sorry, I was trying to get off mute.
I got you. All right, the next thing we're talking about is I believe this is the coach's responsibility in this process. What we will do is, first thing we'll do is we'll identify players who really want to play football at the next level. I think that I've been around a lot of places where guys like the idea of being recruited more than they like the idea of going to actually playing football at a Division II school or at a NAIA school or whatever the options are. If you want to play and you're passionate about it and you're serious about it, then, that's something we'll identify along with, what level is the best fit based on your size, ability. And then that's usually, we really try to gather information and do everything we can. And we don't really have that evaluation until after your sophomore year with film. Now, if you're a guy who doesn't get a whole lot of film until your junior or senior year, then your evaluation might be a little bit longer, a little bit later. But that doesn't mean you don't have an opportunity. You won't have an opportunity. What we will then do is we will make a highlight film. We will personally make each offensive and defensive starter's highlight film. And we're going to kind of change this up by adding Coach Arthur to the mix and helping us here. We got more hands on deck to be able to help this. We're going to ask the kids to do, and this is what we've done in the past. You are to tag your highlights. Once you tag your highlight film or your highlights and put them in an order, we will then know exactly, we know what coaches are looking for, the length, how long it should be, what play should be first, all those types of things, and we'll kind of organize it and make it the most presentable to where your talents and your abilities are highlighted for the schools and the coaches. Player marketing, all right, mass emails, text, social media messages, text messages to the area coach, position coach, coordinators. Okay, I will go ahead and tell you right now, if you have been identified and I've had conversations with you that you want to play college football or play football at the next level, your information has been sent out to, I just did the count today, to 894 schools at every level. You had your specific information been sent out to 894 schools, along with the additional, hold on. Since this recruiting cycle is open, I've spoken on the phone directly to 43 different coaches. So along with the information sent out to 894 schools, I have spoken to an additional 43 directly. And that's not including coaches that I've emailed and coaches that I've texted or sent messages on social media. So it is safe to say that you are being marketed. I take this very serious. Coach Arthur and Coach Stanley both will take this very serious. And the fact that if you want to play, we're going to do everything we can to advertise you. But at the end of the day, you've got to handle your business as well. Additionally, we will have a prospect list with your transcript, your core GPA worksheet, test scores, and anything else. And then in-person push, which is your clout. Every time we talk to people, we send you to camps. We try to get you to camps. We'll take you to camps, take you to visits, get you on campuses and meeting coaches. And then, competing in one-day camps at various schools during the summer. We're going to talk more about that as we go through each year. And at the end of the day, if you as a player work hard for us, we're going to work hard for you. If you kind of slack off and you're chasing the idea of being recruited, or you're doing it for the wrong reasons, or you're not really sold out to being the best teammate, then we're not going to lie, and we're going to talk about that in a little while about the reputation part of it. I take this very serious because these are all relationships built with coaches based on my reputation, the relationship I've had with them, along with Coach Arthur and Coach Stanley. So we're not going to lie on anybody, good or bad.
Exactly, and I want to echo off that, Coach, too, especially Coach Carmine, Coach Stanley, myself, the other coaches on the staff. I mean, I know for a fact this would be going into my 13th year coaching. I've worked, multiple years with several coaches, through different schools, whether they're at a different school or me, and kind of develop that relationship. And they trust, my judgment or Coach Carmine's or Coach Stanley's judgment. Because if we're going to stand on a table and say, hey, you need to take this kid, he's going to listen to us. I encountered a situation, recently where, the parents were wanting me to push a certain kid to a certain level of play. And, I wasn't going to do that because, number one, it's not going to get anywhere. And number two, we're going to lose respect, in that relationship, from that coach. So, I don't want you guys to view it as, we're going to be knocking down your kid. But if your kid's a 5'8", 170-pound receiver, I'm not going to market him to University of Georgia. That's not unless he runs, a 10.5 100 meter. So you kind of got to understand that because we've spent years developing these relationships. And then finally when we jump on the table and say, hey, this is the kid you need to take, boom. I've had kids where that school was their only offer. And then all of a sudden, they're all conference players, at the next level just because off that recommendation.
Still me, right?
Yes. Yeah. You got it all the way till a sophomore.
All right. Parents. Okay. This part is for you. You and, your son, as far as what, what we ask you to do. Be big on grades. Okay. Your son or players, you may not be an FBS, FCS caliber player, but if you wish to play football at any level, the higher the grades, the easier for the kid to be more marketable to coaches and universities. Higher grades is more money, even at the highest level. And, kind of piggybacking off what Coach Arthur said, there are multiple guys who come into my office every single year. And the first thing they say is not how big you are, not what position you play. They say, hey, I got to have a guy that's a 3.0 GPA or higher, core GPA or higher. That's a lot of these guys. That's the first thing that they'll ask about. If it's not the first, it's the second, I promise you. So those grades have got to be important. If you're not serious about the grades, you're not serious about playing college football. And that's just what it is. Because everything matters and everything should be important to you if you want to play at the highest level. All right? Be patient. Okay? This is the hard part for a lot of you, especially parents of seniors. Okay? Be patient. We will never undermarket a kid. However, we will never lie about a kid, positive or negative. Our reputation is built, like we just talked about, from years of relationships. If your child does not have offers, be patient and email me, text me, call me, whatever, with questions. I am more than willing to, sit down and talk about it. But, it's really easy, and I tell our kids this in everything that we're doing, it's really easy to get caught up in social media and what, John Smith over at the school down the road has been offered by so-and-so and so-and-so, and you think your son's better. He might be better, but there might be a specific thing that they're looking for, or it might be a GPA issue or a test score issue. Those are all things that are factored in like we just talked about. There's a lot of things that go into the factor of this $100,000 scholarship. Do not pay for recruiting services, okay? I have witnessed this firsthand, and there are 1,000 of them out there. Now, that being said, the best recruiting service you have is us. Okay? We are the best recruiting service. Nobody will ever offer you because a recruiting service told them to offer you without talking to us. I just got done telling you all the number of schools that I've sent information to just this recruiting cycle. I'm getting your information out there as well, if not better than any recruiting service. Now, if you want to sign up to some of these free recruiting services, I think it's called Recruit Georgia is one on I've seen. Hey, if you want to put your name out there and they want to see you as much as possible and it's free, do it. But this is not worth, wasting thousands of dollars to a recruiting service when I feel like the best service you have is us. Go to as many college campuses and spring practices as possible. Compare your son with the players on the field you are watching. Right now we're in a very unique time where spring practice was canceled. But I know there's a few of you that I've already discussed about making a plan to go to camps. If those camps aren't happening this summer, then you're going to have to take the next step of going to games, taking what we call unofficial visits to schools that, you could compare, your size, your height, your weight, and all those types of things, and then get in person with those coaches. And as we go and as we're going through the process, get with myself, Coach Arthur, or Coach Stanley, and we can set up those on-campus visits for you to kind of get you, foot in the door and meet those people. But again, like Coach Arthur said, if you don't run like that Division I level needs you to run, and you don't have the height and weight, don't come up to us saying, hey, I want to go visit University of Georgia this Saturday just because they're playing, Auburn or whatever else. Make sure that you're very, wise and you take this serious. And I'm going to add another thing on here too, parents and players. Go ahead right now and make a list of what you're looking for in a college. If you know what you want to major in, that's important, because the decision you're making, whether you play college football or not, the decision to go to college is the most important decision you're going to make in the next few years. So you need to make it based on the right decision, based on the right facts. If you know that you want to major in something specific, then go ahead and put that on your list. You want to go to a small school, a big school, location, whatever it is, size, all those types of things. You need to have all this listed out. So that way, when you're talking to these schools, if that's a fact, if there's a thing that's a deal breaker, then you already know ahead of time. And that's another thing these guys are going to ask you. What are you looking to major in? What are you looking for in a school? So go ahead now and at least start that conversation. What do you want to do? And it can be a very broad list right now, and you can kind of narrow it down as the process goes.
And before we move on to the next slide, I want to add on to the first bullet point. I've known and I've actually coached some kids that have gotten full ride offers to some Division I schools, but at the same time their grades were so high they were still getting academic scholarships from the school at the same time. Where you say, well, what happens with all the leftover money? They get a refund check. They get paid to go to school. So the higher the grades, the more money. So I wanted to reiterate that.
Yep. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of break it down year by year. So freshman, okay, what is your son's job as a freshman? Your freshman year, you need to focus on bigger, faster, stronger. Weight room, eating, everything that you can do to make yourself as big, as fast, and strong as possible. That's got to be your focus, along with big grades. Okay, and I've seen this is actually happening in our recruiting cycle right now that we're finishing up. A bad freshman year in the classroom can really, really mess up that GPA for your entire high school career. Yeah, there's a lot of prospects who lack grades freshman year, and it hurts them really bad because they didn't take it serious enough. Take those grades serious, study the game, become a smarter football player, a more intelligent football player. Know your position inside and out and know everything about the game. And then attend 1 or 2 camps in the summer. Again, I don't know how that's going to necessarily happen right now, but you just got to be prepared for anything. But find a couple of camps to attend and to kind of measure yourself against others. And then one of the most important things is become a better teammate. They work to be the best teammate that you can be your freshman year. All right, sophomore year. Okay, again, bigger, faster, stronger. Weight room. Big grades. Continue and build off of the great foundation, hopefully, that you started as a freshman. Okay, continue to study the game. Continue to know the ins and outs and the details of the game. Okay, now this is something that we've got to do a better job of, and everybody in our program's got to do a better job of. Take ACT and SAT both once as a sophomore. There are a lot of you seniors and juniors in here who still haven't taken it. And I know that, a lot of it was pushed back because of the virus, but you sophomores, go ahead now and sign up and take it. You can take the ACT and the SAT as many times as you want in your high school career. Go ahead now as a sophomore and take it. Okay, and then visit a spring practice. Visit some spring practices. So find some local schools or some schools of interest to you, or if you talk to anybody, go ahead and set up a visit to their spring practices so you can get a hands-on look, and then attend 1 or 2 more camps based on talent and size projection as being a sophomore.
And then kind of echoing, there's a lot of going to spring practices and stuff on here. I'm hearing whispers from college coaches that there's a possibility they're going to open camps up in July.
Yes.
And then there's a possibility that they'll open up some preseason practice for the kids to kind of make up for the lack of being able to attend spring practice. Because when all this stuff hit, some of them were only 3 practices in, and then they were done. So the situation right now is very fluid. So, be prepared for the possibility for that opening up, whether camps in July or being able to attend like fall practice in the fall. I don't know what it is, and your guess is as good as mine, but those are the whispers and rumors I've heard. So moving on to the junior year. Now it's going to start speeding up a little bit. But again, continue to get bigger, faster, stronger. I mean, become a better football player and a better young man. Keep getting on those grades. I mean, push. More bigger grades, more money. Keep becoming a better football player by studying the game. Don't just be locked into your position. Become a complete player. Now, we talked about taking the ACT and the SAT once, okay? Because, some kids do better on the ACT than they do on the SAT and vice versa. Once they figure out which one they're more comfortable in, zero in on a particular one and at least take it 2 more times that particular year, maybe even 3. Like Coach Carmine said, you can take it as many times as you want. All my experience, every kid, the more often they took it, the higher score they got. And we talked about spring practices, junior days. I know some schools were having like virtual junior days where they're like giving a tour on campus, virtually. So again, this situation is very fluid. Now, this is very big. At the end of your junior year, so you guys are going to be seniors, all right, this coming year, or you guys that are going to be juniors this year, you need to do this at the end of this next school year. You need to register for the NCAA clearinghouse. What it is all you do is just type in NCAA clearinghouse, and it's there, and you'll register for it. And you're going to have to sign some paperwork to release your transcripts and your test scores, ACT or SAT, to the NCAA clearinghouse. Because that's very, 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 very important, because if you are not registered with the NCAA clearinghouse, Coach Carmine talked about unofficial visit. Anybody can take an unofficial visit. But starting in the fall, you're allowed to start taking official visits. And most of them are, Division I, some D2s. What they do is they pay for you and 2 or 3 people, relatives or of your choosing. They pay for travel, they pay for meal, they pay for housing, everything for an official visit for like a weekend, a Friday, a Saturday, and usually leave on a Sunday. But if you're not registered for the NCAA clearinghouse, you cannot take an official visit. I've ran into that situation before with a young man who was registered with the clearinghouse but didn't have an ACT or SAT test score. He couldn't take a official visit. So that is very big. At the end of your junior year, you have to register for the NCAA clearinghouse, and they're going to continue to monitor your grades, as you progress through your senior year. Now, attend 3 to 4 camps based on your school's interests from your spring evaluation period. Now, obviously, we didn't get that. Do not go to University of Georgia camp if your son is not a University of Georgia player. Just go where he's projected, and that's keeping that open line of communication between us as coaches and you and your kid. The mega camps, there's a few mega camps in the area, but for the most part, in my experience, they are a waste of money. And what you're going to see, all the glitz and glamour. Oh, there's going to be 45 Division I schools there, and it's a lot of exposure. And some of you guys might have experience in those mega camps. Is you might not get a lot of attention at those, and there's going to be some, you're going to get lost in the wash, and you're going to get limited reps. The only way I would recommend going to a mega camp, and I'm specifically talking about Kennesaw State and Mercer because they do a good job, is if a particular coach from a particular school asks you to be there. I remember last year, Kent State was going to be at the Kennesaw State mega camp, and they wanted to see a couple of our kids. So I said, hey, make sure so-and-so comes to this camp, so-and-so, just so he can just to shake hands with our head coach. Our head coach wants to meet him. So, for the most part, unless a coach asks you to come to that camp so they can see you in person, I wouldn't suggest doing it. And it's usually for, schools that are very far away and it's hard for you to get on their campus. Another example is Syracuse wanted to see a couple kids work out. So, to me, it's a waste of money only unless that particular coach says, hey, come to the Kennesaw State mega camp or the Mercer mega camp, or I know LaGrange does one. I've heard, last year I heard Kennesaw State did a really good job at it, and Mercer was a little bit disorganized. But, You know, they're fluid. So be careful with those mega camps. Senior year, again, continuing, getting bigger, faster, stronger. Never stop growing, constantly evolving. Finish strong. I know some kids senior year, they get senioritis. It might be real. The biggest thing is stay in contact with all the coaches who contact you. You know, if a coach from an NAIA school really wants you to come to your school, but you're waiting on that big Division I offer, all right, then all of a sudden that big Division I offer, you know, it doesn't come through. Guess what? That NAIA coach has moved on, and now you have nowhere to go. Do not big time any coach. This business is interconnected. At the same time, you could have a Division II coach that you might be shrugging off, and then who really likes you, but all of a sudden he gets a Division I job, because these college coaches change job, you know, a lot. And he might not recruit you, but he liked you. He thought you maybe play, but you know, you big timed him. And it goes the same way around with coaches and high school coaches and college coaches, but I'm not going to get in that conversation. If you need to, polish up your ACT, SAT score. If you're doing it right, taking it your sophomore year and then really honing on to it your junior year, you probably won't even have to take it. Apply for FAFSA, which is the federal I don't know what it stands for, but it basically it's, you know, way to possibility if you get Pell Grants or student loans, even if you're an FBS, FCS full ride offer. Again, a kid could be an FBS, FCS full ride offer, but still receive a Pell Grants and still get some money back from the government. But that's how some of these Division II and Division III and NAIA schools, they package a lot of their offers is, you know, you're going to get 25% athletic scholarship. We're going to give you another 25% academic, and the rest is going to be student loans. So a lot of them, before they even will give you an offer, and I'm talking D2 down, is they want to make sure that FAFSA is done so they know exactly what you're going to have to pay out of pocket to attend their school. And obviously take official visits, and I kind of touched on what official visits are, is that they are paid for by the school. Everything. It's basically an all expenses paid mini vacation. Mostly you'll see those with Division I schools. Some Division II schools will do it. I've even seen some very financially strong Division III and NAIA schools do some official visits. But just take all your visits and make sure, like Coach Carmine said, that's where you want to spend the next 4 years of your life, not just playing football, because you also got to live there too. And then sign your letter of intent. You know, signing day normally used to be the first Wednesday in February, and now they moved it to the December 20th is the early signing period. So that's when a lot of the Division I stuff is going to fall there, and then everything else is afterwards. And then,
Hey, one thing on that. On the official visits, guys, you are limited on the amount of official visits you can take. You're only allowed to take 5 official visits. So you have to be very, you know, and that's where what we talked about, taking these unofficial visits, going to junior days, going to camps, going to practices, all those types of things. Once you decide to take those official visits, those need to be, you know, 5 options that you know, legitimately want to go to school at.
Yeah, good. And then, you know, and if you're committed somewhere, or you're not committed somewhere, and you take an official visit to, let's say you go to Paulding State, Cobb Tech might pull your offer because you went to Cobb State. So these college coaches sometimes are very much emotional into their feelings. I mean, again, they're almost like gamblers. They're playing their odds. So like Coach Carmine said, you're allowed to take up to 5, but you know, most kids usually, like, they've been on campus enough, they only need to take 1. All right, summer camps. This is the last one, and I'm going to hand it back to Coach Carmine. As stated in the previous slide, as graduation comes near, only attend the camps in which you are capable of playing. Again, don't want a kid going to University of Georgia if he's not an SEC player. Let's maybe go to Georgia State. Maybe he's a Sun Belt caliber player, or go to a Wofford or a Furman or a Kennesaw State if they're an FCS type player. We will make a camp calendar. Now, obviously, we don't know what's going on this summer with camps, and you know, I'm not very confident that any are going to happen, but normally we'll make a camp calendar and go over camp dates with each individual kid, say, hey, I think you need to go to this camp, this camp, this camp, this camp, and highlight them. and then bring it home to the parents and make sure that you guys can talk about it and possibly plan out a couple days in the summer to attend those camps. I think that's very efficient, and it helps with the parents, that way they can kind of plan ahead and work and stuff like, because most of these camps are during the weekday. And the biggest thing I tell people all the time, if a camp is not ran or hosted by a college or a university, it is a waste of money. The whole purpose of these camps is to be able to get seen and see live in-person evaluations from these college coaches. If it is not ran or hosted by the college coaches cannot be there. So it's pointless. And I don't care if the camp says, oh, we're going to send this film to the college coaches. I've talked to numerous college coaches that say, you know what I do with those videos? Delete. So if your purpose is to get a scholarship or, being able to play at the next level, if it's not ran by a college, I would not go to it because it's a waste of money. Unless it's a free invite camp, example like Rivals or Under Armour. College coaches can't be there, but it's a free invite. So why not use that opportunity?
All right, guys. So now we're going to kind of open it up for questions. You can either type them in the chat if you have any questions, parents, players, all of you. Everything that we just went over, guys, was just this is our experience. This is all of the social media. I recommend you following all of us on social media. We use our social media platforms in many different ways, but at the end of the day, the Kennesaw Mountain Football Instagram as well as the Kennesaw Mountain Football Twitter is only used for the players and promotion of our program. But each of us, Coach Arthur, Coach Stanley, and myself, also will use our individual Twitter and social media accounts at times to promote your players too. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to email any of us, all of us, some of us, whatever you like. But the hardest, you only get to do this thing one time. And we want to make sure that you have all the information out there and all the information that we've seen as much as possible. So, don't hesitate to ask questions. Does anybody have any questions right now? You have to unmute yourself, parents, if you don't know how Zoom works.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hudson's mom.
Hey.
Hey. So I went on that NCAA clearinghouse and it talked about, have you ever played? It asked about the team/club that he's played for before. Do I put Kennesaw Mountain down there, or is that something else, like a club team?
No, that should be Kennesaw Mountain High School. Just make sure you put Kennesaw Mountain High School.
Okay, it was just the part when it is talking about like paid, making sure that you hadn't paid for anything or.
Oh yeah, then no, you would put nothing.
Okay, so don't say anything there.
Correct.
Okay, that was my only question there.
Anybody else got any questions? All right. Well, look, as y'all, this is a unique, this situation is very unique as far as everything that we're dealing with the camps and everything and the calendar. We are going to do as good of a job as we possibly can at getting the information to you. Now that information may change week to week, month to month, camps, visits, all those types of things, but we're going to try our best to do that. There's a lot more people in this meeting than what we have on our prospect sheet. Now, that doesn't mean that, you're too late or anything. What I would ask is Coach Arthur's going to put our email addresses back on there. And let's go ahead, and everybody is in this meeting. And if, after going through this and this is something that you want to do and pursue, if you can go ahead and email all three of us in one email. Your son's information, so player's information, name, address, phone number, email address, and then GPA. Coach Arthur, anything else you can think of?
Not off the top of my head, because I'm sure you can get the other information from, whatever software y'all use in Cobb County. like
Yeah.
their home address and all that. Just everything that's pertinent that a potential college coach would want to know. And then kids' social media.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, go ahead and email that to all three of us, so that way we can just make sure that you're added to our prospect sheet. And like I said, if this is something you still need to talk about, then talk about it. But once you kind of get the ball rolling on this thing, as you can see through those slides, it rolls fast, and you got to kind of be on top of your game there. All right. Anybody else have any questions?
So, Coach, you said don't pay for the it's a bunch of recruiting profiles, those websites, for the recruitment. You said don't pay for them.
Yeah, don't pay for the ones that you have to pay money to like make a profile or like a recruiting service. Don't pay for those. I think Recruit Georgia is the only one that I know of that's that one's free. But just make sure that we have your information, and we're going to be better than any recruiting site.
And if you have a question about like a potential particular service or a camp, let me know, because one of your teammates sent me a thing the other day about he was invited to a camp, or quote unquote he was a All-American, and I'll say, hey man, you're a good player, but no, that thing's nothing but a money grab.
Yeah. Yeah, just communicate through this process. Parents and players. When in doubt, ask, communicate, because we want everybody to have the opportunity who wants the opportunity. So we're going to do everything in our power that we can to help. All right. Well, if y'all think of anything else, don't hesitate to email, but email us that information, and thank you for being a part of it.